Larry Steinhouse on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
Good afternoon and welcome to Investor Schooling Live. Coming to you from Investor Schooling headquarters. I'm Phil Falcone here with my business partner, Larry Steinhouse. We are the founders of Investor Schooling. Get ready to learn real estate investing and stock option trading. Call us anytime during the show with your questions at 855-939-1137. That's 855-939-1137. That's right, we're a live program, so you can call us anytime during the show, and we'll take your calls. Don't even worry about what we're talking about, because we love to take your calls. Investor Schooling is located in Langhorne, Pennsylvania, serving the Philadelphia area in a real brick-and-mortar building. We are local guys, accessible to our students, a minimum of 2 nights per week. Learn this business, the business of real estate investing and stock option trading, from people who live it every day. Yo. So today we're going to be talking about how you can win Phil's car, and about a day where Larry made the most money in one day that he ever has. We're going to discuss that. We're going to talk about one of the biggest profit deals that I did last year as well, almost a year ago. So we're going to be talking about some of these deals. We're also going to have a conversation about how I bought a $2.1 million building with $10,000 in the bank. Is buy and hold the best way to get rich? Enhance your location and never pay too much. That comes from number 45, Donald Trump. And the stock option Sultan is going to be wrapping up our show with his picks of the week. We also got some questions that were emailed into us by some of our listeners. So, Larry, what's happening?
We're here on a Saturday today instead of Sunday. We're here on by the way, it's Saturday at 2 o'clock. If you guys don't know, we actually are live right now, Saturday at 2 o'clock. And you can call in right now, 855-939-1137, and you can talk to us. And we love talking to you guys. You guys are a blast. So I just want to let you know that it's Saturday, and we really are live. Now, on Saturday, I usually get the most calls from the repeat show. We actually get more calls on Saturday at this time than we get on Sunday when we're doing the show live. So we're doing the show live today. This is very confusing, isn't it?
No.
Okay, we're doing the show live today, so I'm hoping we're going to get the calls that we normally get on during Saturday at 2 o'clock. And by the way, most of the time, Saturday at 2 o'clock, I'm asleep on the couch with the phone on my chest waiting for it to ring, because I know one of you guys is going to call and talk to us about something exciting. So if you guys want, 855-939-1137.
What about the question you put out there last week? I don't think anybody ever called to answer it. Should we be more funny, or should we be more factual?
Right, and actually, the funny part is that question was actually 2 weeks ago, because it's been 2 weeks since we've been live. I was away and you were away.
Yep.
So we actually canned the show for a couple of weeks, and we had a couple of repeats, and I actually got calls on the repeats too. It was great. I had actually a couple of students call and wanted to answer the question, and they did. And they didn't really care, is what the answer I got so far was. But hey, that's a really good question. Should we be funny or more factual? I mean, we're always factual. We always tell the truth about money. We always tell the truth about real estate, about stock options, about taxes. We teach it all, and we talk about it all the time. But we try to have a little bit of fun with each other, right? We have some good banter.
Of course.
We have some fans out there who love our banter, by the way.
Life is meant to be fun.
Right. I mean, I make fun of you, because you're Phil.
And I make fun of you because I can.
Yeah, so go ahead. Try to make fun of me. I dare you.
I will. I'm going to do it in this show several times.
Oh, you promise?
Just hang around.
I don't think you can.
I think I can guarantee that you'll be made fun of. Well, I'll tell you something. I had a wonderful couple of weeks. I went to Florida on a business trip, and I was able to acquire a piece of property, so I'm happy about that.
What'd you buy?
I bought a mobile home park in Florida.
Another one? That's pretty good, man.
Yeah, another one.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is. I mean, what I'm really doing is I'm buying a rent roll. That's all.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So the property itself is nothing amazing. It's it's 10 houses, and they're all on this one lot. And but the part that I really am interested in is not necessarily the the property or even the homes, I want to buy the rent roll. So
Right.
right now it makes about $5,000 a month in profit,
That's awesome.
and I seen that going up and away.
Oh, of course, absolutely, and obviously, what's going on, and you and I have talked about it many times, is that the economy is going to shift, and people are going to be looking for low income housing, and they're going to be banging your door down to rent those places.
Well, I've been saying this for a while. Like I've asked the first thing I do is I ask the question. I say, "Hey, do you think America is on the incline, or do you think it's on the decline?" And I definitely think it's on the decline. What do you think, Larry?
It's not on the decline yet, but it's definitely coming, and that's the real answer. The real answer is it's going to happen, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen soon, and it's going to happen fast.
Okay.
And that's the thing that we need to remember.
So it's a very simple philosophy for me. If you believe that the country is on the decline, then investing in low-income housing is really smart, because if people are struggling financially, then affordable housing will be in high demand.
Absolutely.
Which means that affordable housing will become less affordable.
Affordable housing will become less affordable. That should make sense. You're right, because people will be fighting over the house, and they'll be paying you excess rent, which is also awesome. And that's exactly the way we need to look at it.
Right. So I like affordable housing as a investment vehicle. I like it a lot.
And affordable housing is mobile home parks.
Well, or apartment buildings,
exactly,
or
right.
anything that's affordable.
Section 8 apartment buildings would be fantastic, actually, if you wanted to get into that. And I think that's also a great place to be.
I think so. It's hard not to go with that. The only thing I would say about that is I've owned some small apartment buildings, and there's just a lot of problems with that stuff. People fighting over parking spaces. People can hear everything that the other person's doing. They can hear each other. Their neighbors having sex. They can hear their neighbors fighting. They can smell their neighbors' food. They can hear their neighbors fighting. So there's a lot of problems with that. Where in a mobile home park, even though there are a bunch of these mobile homes that are lined up in a row, they still theoretically are single-family homes.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if you were putting microphones in outside the trailers so you could listen to them.
Well, I have had neighbors in duplexes that I could hear them, yes. I have lived in duplexes and in triplexes. So
I lived in a house with my wife. We lived in a house. The guy downstairs snored so loud that we could not only hear him upstairs, but he sounded like he was in the room with us.
That's funny. When I was a kid and I would stay out until all hours of the night, I would come home and I could actually hear my father snoring outside the house.
Wow.
That's how loud he snored. And I knew, like, if I heard him snoring, then I could come in and he would have no clue that I came home at 5 in the morning.
Oh, so you never complained about it. That's very smart.
Well, I never complained about it, no, because it told me that he was awake or if he was sleeping.
I would have never thought how smart that. I would have said, "Dad, you snore, haha." But that's why you stayed out till 5 o'clock in the morning, and my dad hit me with the strap if I came home after 10.
Okay.
All right. Now that we've gone completely off somewhere else. By the way, is this okay, guys? Is this banter okay, or do we need to go into something factual right now?
Is buy and hold the best way to get rich?
Let's get into something factual now. Is buy and hold the best way to get rich? Of course it is. So it depends on your definition of rich, and we've had this conversation before. Some people say rich is like, just having a lot of money to be able to buy anything you want, and wealthy is something that you hold on to, and maybe you pass it down generational. So it really depends on your definition, but yeah, okay. Here's the advantage of buy and hold. The most important advantage of buy and hold is simply the fact that you're buying properties, whatever it is you're paying for. Let's say you pay $100,000 for it, and even if you got a 100% mortgage at $100,000, which by the way we teach people how to do all the time, we even teach people how to get the $100,000 mortgage and $20,000 on top of it for renovations, and you can get the whole thing at once. But assuming you got a $100,000 house and you're getting whatever $1,100 a month, and if you're making whatever $150, $200 a month profit on that out of nothing, then as time goes by, you're paying down the loan, and the property value is also increasing. And by the time you turn around, and I have a couple of properties that I bought 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago. I look at them now and I'm like, wow, the equity in this thing is amazing. And not only that, the rent that I used to make $200 on, I'm now making $800 or $1,000 a month on. So yeah, it is the best way to get rich, and actually rich and wealthy if you want to talk about both.
It's just one of the greatest investment vehicles ever, in my
Absolutely.
opinion.
Absolutely. There's nothing better.
Yeah.
And, we teach stock options, we teach stock, we teach many other vehicles, and the absolute best one is absolutely real estate.
I look at some of the real estate deals that I've done. Not all of them. I've made a mistake here and there. But
You make mistakes?
yes. But I've looked at some of my most successful real estate deals, and I consider them like a monument to smart decision making.
Well, what was your most successful real estate deal?
Well, I guess I have to go with Executex
Of
Suites.
course. I would agree
because-
with you. I think that is the most successful real estate deal you've ever done as executive. As a matter of fact, I know you wanted to talk about it today. Why don't we just go there?
Yeah, we could talk about it. So, I took a realtor training class in this building called Executex Suites, which is in Huntington Valley, and it's right on Buck Road, in between County Line Road and Street Road. And I became a realtor taking a class in one of the offices.
How do you say that word?
Realtor.
It's not realtor?
If you say realtor, you're probably not a realtor.
I know a lot of realtors that say realtor, like the guy on the show right before us, by the way.
Yeah. The funny part is I used to be in this group. I'm not going to say the name of the group.
Sure.
But there was a woman in that group who used to call herself a realtor.
Yep.
And I thought to myself, she's been in the business for over 3 decades and she still hasn't learned how to pronounce the career path she chose.
Well, wasn't her name Barbara?
I'm not saying her name. Okay.
I made Pedro laugh.
So when I saw this property for sale, it was for sale for $2.3 million. At the time, I had $10,000 in the bank. And to make a long story short, I decided to start selling off a bunch of my row homes. I only had $10,000 in the bank, but I did have about 20-something row homes at the time. This was in 2006 when I bought this building. And at the time, I only had $10,000 in the bank, but I did have a bunch of properties that had some equity in them. And I got kind of lucky. I put 8 houses up for sale, and 4 of them sold relatively quickly. And 2 of the 4 deals, I was able to be the realtor on both sides of the transaction. So I made a little bit of the money I made from the properties. And I did 4 separate properties. I did a 1031 exchange. So in order for me to buy this property it was listed at $2.3 million, but I negotiated it down to $2.1 million, $2,150,000. Right? So I needed, according to my mortgage person, I needed to put down $475,000. I had 10 grand in the bank. But luckily for me, the 4 houses I sold, each home that I sold had approximately $100,000 in equity in it, approximately. One was 95, one was 105. You get the idea. I basically was able to do a quadruple 1031 exchange into one big building. So out of these 4 properties that I sold, I had approximately 400 grand, plus the 10 grand I had in the bank. I'm still 65,000 short. It occurs to me at this moment, back then I wasn't as capable of raising money as I am now. And at that time, I didn't know where to get the $65,000. I was, calling people and asking them for the money and that kind of thing. But it occurred to me, hey, wait a minute. When you buy a duplex or when you buy a triplex, all of the security deposit and all the last month's rent gets transferred to the new buyer. And I thought, well, this property that I was trying to buy had a rent roll of $42,000 a month. So I called up the title company and I got a copy of all the leases and added them all up and saw that there was $60,000 in a escrow account that was going to come to me at settlement. So I called up the title company and I said, hey, I know this money comes to me at settlement, but does it come at the beginning of settlement or at the end of settlement? And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I'm asking if I can use that $60,000 as part of my down money. And he said, yes, you can. And just like that, I was only $5,000 short of buying a $2.1 million building when I had $10,000 in the bank.
Yeah, but you couldn't buy the building because you didn't have the 5,000.
5,000 would never stop me at that point. You know,
I was talking to my neighbor today. He's like, I told him by the way, I sold my vet. I don't know if you know that. I actually got more money for my vet than I paid for it 3 years ago.
yeah, you said that the other day.
Yeah, so I sold it because I was like, all right, if somebody's going to do that, that's fine with me. But a funny story was I was talking to my neighbor today. And he's like, oh, you sold your vet. I always wanted one. I said, well, what are you looking for? And he goes, I'm looking for like the body style, the 69, 70 body style. I go, you could pick one up for 20 grand. And he goes, yeah, I know, but I go, it's 20 grand. Go buy the vet. You got 20 grand. And he just can't wrap his head around the fact that he can have anything he wants, which is just a money mindset problem. We talk about that all the time.
I always like the 73 style.
Yeah, it's the same one, right?
Yeah. That's a cool style, but I've been in those back in the day who had them.
They're slow.
They're not very comfortable either.
Yeah.
I mean, they're neck breakers.
Right.
So,
because the fiberglass body wasn't perfected yet.
So it looks very cool, but it's not a very fun car to drive.
My MG's fun to drive. I like my MG. Actually, it's the most fun car I've ever driven because I paid almost nothing for it, and it's just a lot of fun. And I don't care if it sits out in the rain. I don't care anything. Anyway, we're getting back to cars now. What's
the day that we're going to be doing the tour of Executech?
I don't know. Hey, do you know, Pedro, the day we're doing the tour of Executech?
I have no idea.
You would think we would know, huh?
I thought it was like...
yeah, he's going to actually... We're actually going to do a tour, and you guys are all invited to this, which is kind of neat.
I think it was October 9th. Is that the day?
You look that up. Somebody on YouTube is actually watching us, and they had a question. They said, I'm a small landlord in Coatesville, and his property was flooded with Storm Ida. No flood insurance. Have you had any experience with flooding in your rental units? So,
I have.
Yeah, me too. Mine's pretty exciting too.
Your flood was from a different reason from my flood.
Yeah,
my flood was from the Delaware River.
Well, yeah, why don't you talk about that one? Yeah, talk about that one real quick.
Yeah, so, I guess it was around 2001. I bought a 7-unit apartment building in Trenton, New Jersey, in a neighborhood called the Island. And the reason they call it an island is because, want to guess?
It's on an island.
It is an island.
Is it an island or is it a
It's a real island. It's a real island.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's like just a piece of land that's completely surrounded by water on the Delaware River. And I looked up the history of when's the last time it flooded, and it flooded 47 years ago. So I thought, well, I'm probably good, I'm not going to worry about it, right? So I bought the building, and then it flooded 2 times in the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Right? So it was pretty bad. It whacked out the whole lower... So if you know what a garden variety apartment building is, you walk in the front door, you go down half a flight of steps, and there were 3 efficiency units on the lower level. You go up half a flight of steps, and there were 2 units there, and then you go up another full flight of steps, and there were 2 units up there. So it was 7 units altogether. 4 of them were very big one-bedroom apartments, and then 3 of them were small efficiencies. And the lower level just got totally destroyed. I mean, mud like crazy, like several inches of mud. Literally, the Delaware River came into the house. And, I was concerned about some structural issues possibly, but there already were some structural issues with the building because of the flooding that just made it worse. But to make a long story short, I mean, I got a public adjuster to help me with the thing, and I got a check for like $40,000.
Yeah, you had FEMA insurance?
I had flood insurance.
Okay,
yeah.
He didn't have flood insurance, the person who's watching. So I'm going to tell you my story about no insurance. Which is... So I own 3 condos. So there's a condo complex out in Lansdale that I own a few units in, and each building is a quad. It's not a fourplex, it's a quad, right, Phil?
Absolutely, it's a quad.
It's a quad.
If you call it a fourplex, you're really going to get me upset.
It's a fourplex, and a realtor sold it to me. So it's a quad, and there's 4 units. There's 2 upstairs, there's 2 downstairs, and I own. If you're looking at the building from the entrance, I own all but the top right is the only one I don't own. So I own the other 3. So under the 2 on the left side, underneath the 2, all the storage units are underneath those 2. So I recently rent out the top one to a guy who, he's working down the street. I think he's actually working at Merck, and he hadn't really officially moved in yet. Some bidet device, which was basically a sprayer. It almost looks like a sink sprayer. And
it's It's a butt washer.
Yeah, it was exactly right. So it's a bit right, and it looks it looks like a sprayer for a sink, right? And it's got a hook, and he hooks it up on the outside of the toilet, and however you use it, whatever. Mm-hmm. And he leaves, and sure enough, this thing is a cheap piece of junk made in
China,
of course,
Wuhan,
probably, right? And it starts to leak, and then downstairs, they're not home. So this thing, 6 or 7 hours later, my tenant from downstairs, because I own that unit too, she pulls into, there's a garage down there, she pulls into the garage, and she immediately calls me, she goes, I hear water running. I'm like, what do you mean? And she goes, I hear water running. And she just got out of her car, she didn't even go into the storage, near the storage unit yet. She goes from the garage to the storage units, and she goes, there's water all over the floor. I actually said, oh crap, have you been in your apartment yet? And she goes, no. I said, I'll stay on the phone. And she goes and she opens the door, and she bursts out crying. Her entire unit is completely flooded. Drywall is on the floor from the ceiling. That's how bad this flood was. And I said, I said, oh, listen, let me tell you where the water shutoff is. I told her where the water shutoff. She shuts the water off. I go there. We have a restoration guy who works with us, right? Who's a student. He meets me there, and we put her up. We put her up for the night. The people upstairs meet me there, and it turns out to be this bidet unit. They hadn't moved in yet. They flooded that apartment too. So now I have the 2 apartments plus the storage units that this guy flooded out. And of course, my guy, the restoration guys, hey, listen, I'll call your insurance company tomorrow. I go, I don't have insurance. And he goes, what do you mean you don't have insurance? And it's a funny thing because I actually believe, and I actually still believe it, if you have a condo, the absolute worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to, if there's a fire and the building burns down, they're going to fix everything up to your drywall. So I figured I could self-insure for $20,000 or $30,000 if that happens. I just didn't realize that I have to cover 3 units in one fire. And this wasn't a fire, this case was a flood. So luckily, luckily I have the money and I was able to afford it. So I mean, I don't know about your situation, the person on YouTube. I was able to afford it. It cost me about $55,000. I went after the guy who had the bidet, but of course he was from another country here on an H-1 visa, and his basic response to me was, "Sue me if you want. I'm going back to my country."
Yeah. Well, let's get on with something more interesting. Did you use the butt washer, and did you enjoy it? Because, you're kind of a fruity guy. I figured you might like it. Does it feel good?
I will never use one again because all it makes me think about is $55,000.
Does it save you toilet paper?
Apparently it does.
It's more comfortable, possibly?
It possibly.
Yeah, I was thinking of getting one. I just don't want to destroy my whole house with it.
Well, you could get one to mount on the inside of the toilet, so if it breaks, it goes into the toilet, not into the units downstairs.
How about you, Pedro? You got any experience with
a butt washer?
Yeah, they're my favorite.
Your favorite?
I love a bidet.
You love a bidet, see?
It just gets all the cracks.
So apparently I'm hanging out with a couple of fruity guys.
Hey, listen, if you want to clean tush, you can have a clean tush. You don't want to clean tush, you don't want to clean tush. I like it when I take my pants off at night and nothing smells, okay?
You're Italian. That's all over Italy.
What? Smelly butts? How do we get on this topic anyway?
I just I like to learn things about stuff that I don't know about.
Let's go. Let's talk about maybe real estate.
Hey, why don't we talk about how I hired a manager for my new
Yes,
park.
I think we should. So you have a new park and you hired a manager.
Yeah, so I right across the street from my new park, I bought this mobile home park, and right across the street is this dive bar, this total dive bar. All right, it's called like Fisherman's Wharf Dive Bar or something, and so I go over there to talk some business with my business partner, and we're having a couple of beers.
By the way, we need to remind everybody that we're live, and you can call in. And actually, the guy on YouTube, if you want to call in, 855-939-1137, 855-939-1137. So if you want to call in, 855-939-1137. We're live right now. It's Saturday, and we're live. And we're live. This is the live show. So call in.
So I walk across the street from the park over to this dive bar. There's about 8 people in there. And I kind of walk in and I go, "How's everybody doing? I just want to tell you I'm going to be the new owner of the mobile home park across the street." Pretty much nobody cared. Nobody even really said hi, except for this woman who's on the other side of the bar, and she says, "Hi, how you doing?" and starts talking, and she says, "Oh, you guys bought the park across the street." She says, "How much did you pay for it?" And I said, "Why don't you take a guess?" And she guesses the exact number.
She didn't say 100,000?
She guesses the exact number. So I said, "Well, how did you know that?" And she goes, "I just know things around here." And I said, "Well,"
she's one of those.
I said, "Well, come on over and talk to us." So she comes over, and this is the beers cost $2.
Really?
$2. And actually it's for sale, so we could buy it if you want to buy it.
Do all your tenants in the mobile home park drink beer?
I'm not completely. We could buy the dive bar if you wanted to.
Sure.
I think we could get it cheap. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make a phone call to the guy later on today.
That's great. Okay.
So, not that I really want to own a bar over there, but it is next door, so it might make sense. Anyway, so this woman comes over and she tells me that she's worked for contractors for years, and she knows electricians and plumbers and blah blah blah. And she used to hire them for a general contractor. She knows all the best people in town. And I said, "Look, what I got to lose? I need somebody here who can help me." The guy who works for me in Florida, his name is Jody. He's a great guy, but he is 2 hours away. So I figured I need somebody in town here. So I've already hired her, and I'm giving her projects to do right now. So she just changed the phone number on the sign out front. She's going to change the website on the sign out front. I got her organizing the keys, putting in the key box, and I got a bunch of projects that I can give her to do. So we're gonna find out soon enough if she's for real or not. Anyway, so it's kind of funny. She was the only person in the bar who would talk to me. So I figured, cool.
Well, that's because you walked into a bar and you looked too rich to be in a bar that serves $2 beers.
And then my business partner and I, we talked about it, and we said, "Are we really going to hire somebody that we met in a bar for like a half an hour?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you know what?" One of the things that my business partner said, he said, "She's either going to be terrific at what we want her to do, or she's the best bullshitter I ever met."
855-939-1137. 855-939-1137 is the phone number. So if you want to call in and talk to us about anything, you can. 855-939-1137. All right. So why don't we take a commercial real quick, and you can find out more about investor schooling and how we got here. We'll see you in a minute.
Hi, I'm Phil Falcone from Invest.
Okay, guys.
I'm Larry Steinhouse, and I'm here with Phil Falcone, and we are here to talk about real estate, stock options investing, anything and everything you want to know about money. And we were just talking a little bit about your... And why don't we talk a little bit about stock options?
That was a really fast commercial. I mean, how many commercials were they run?
So you need to tell everybody to go to where?
We usually have 4.
Well, don't we tell them to go to investorschooling.com anyway? You want to do a commercial real quick between you and I?
No,
hey, Phil, what are we going to be teaching this Thursday?
We're going to be talking about stock options and real estate investing.
All right, cool. So if we talk about stock options and real estate investing, can people make a lot of money?
If they have half a brain, they can. Yes.
Yeah, and it's true. It's funny because you really only need half a brain because you don't. It's
really
not,
pretty simple.
It's not
business.
very hard to make money in real estate and stock options, which is funny.
No.
Which is funny that people think it is.
Buy something, rent it out, and come back to it 10 years later, and you're up a bunch.
Right. And how do they register for a class?
It's pretty easy. You just show up to investorschooling.com. Go to Investor Schooling, put your name and email address in, and we will save you a seat.
But if they only have half a brain, do you think they know their name?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think if you have half a brain, you still know your name.
So if you need help with that, you could call in, by the way, 855-939-1137, and we will help you put your name in if you only have half a brain.
All right. What topics you want to talk about now?
Let's talk a little bit about stock options.
All right. What's on your mind?
So I know you had said something earlier about my biggest day in stock options, which the anniversary of is coming up in about 6 weeks or so, right?
You know what? I don't recall the exact date, but about a year ago, you had about the most amazing day that I know of anybody making that much money in one day.
And you had a really cool wholesale deal, and we'll talk about that too.
Yeah,
so
okay.
so I made $193,000 in one day on stock options trading, which absolutely blows my mind to this day. I'm just fascinated by it. It's fantastic to know that I made that much money in one day.
If only they were all like that.
The funny part is right now, I wish I'd have another one right now.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
You could. That could be a pretty strong down payment on a
mobile home
an
park?
apartment building.
Yeah,
or
right.
a mobile home
Right.
park.
Exactly.
Whatever. Yeah.
So you also had. So the cool part is you also had right about that time your best wholesale deal that you ever did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you made how much?
I made $127,000 for me, and my partner made the same amount.
That's pretty awesome, man.
Right.
That's another thing that just blows my mind. It's how much money that you made. And look, in this business, I got to be honest with you, those two numbers, they're overwhelming. And I mean, if you make them, it's fantastic. But what if you just made $10,000 or $20,000? Wouldn't you feel really good about making an extra $10,000 or $20,000?
Of course. I mean, and I'm not by any means trying to say that that's normal for a wholesale deal. What this particular deal was, it was a house that's in Collegeville that sat on a couple of acres. And it had a huge garage, like a $50,000 garage. The lady's husband used to set up race cars, real race cars. So it was his hobby, and he spent all of his time working in this big garage. And unfortunately, he got ill and passed away. And the lady just wanted to sell the house, and I was able to get the house for $260,000. And then I went into the house, and I did a lot of cleaning and stuff. It was a lot of trash removal, getting rid of garbage, that kind of stuff. I worked there about 40 hours over the course of several weeks, and I put the house up for sale for $450,000, I think, and I ended up getting $410,000 for it. So I made a bunch of money in roughly about $250,000
Pretty awesome.
for me and my partner in a very short period of time. It just goes to show you that you don't have to, when you buy a house that needs to be fixed up, you do not have to fix up everything that you buy. Sometimes you should try, at least, to just take the thing in its current state and try to sell it for more right now and see what happens.
Well, you and I actually partnered with a student once, and we made like $150,000 between the three of us, and we split it. It was actually pretty cool.
Right, and we did almost no work to that house.
We didn't do any work at all. We literally bought it, put it up on the market the next day. We were supposed to renovate it. That was the point. We bought it to renovate it. So one of the things that we teach our students is how much would you sell this if you bought a property right now, and you renovate it. But if somebody made you an offer right now, what would you take for it? And whatever that number is, put it up on the MLS for that number. You never know, you might get it. So not only did we put it up for the number we thought, we had a bidding war over that house.
Yeah.
And they bid it up $50,000 more than we wanted.
Well, we're going to do more deals like that.
Yeah, absolutely. We need
because we're really focused on that now. And I predict many big fat checks coming your way in the
absolutely.
future.
Yeah, we do get a lot of big fat checks.
Right. And we're going to show all those checks to Pedro.
Well, yeah. Well, Pedro, he needs to learn how to get big fat checks too.
Yeah, we're not going to let him.
Chunky money check coming.
You got a chunky money check coming?
Yeah.
All right. What are you selling?
Tell us about it.
I got a house for $10,000. I put it up for $60,000, and someone offered me $52,000, And
Wow.
They will pay closing costs.
10
Good for
grand?
you, man. That's awesome.
Where did you get a house for 10 grand?
In the worst neighborhood in Philadelphia.
All right, that's cool. So for you guys who know who Pedro is our in-house engineer, and we also have an out-of-house engineer. By the way, if you call right now, 855-939-1137, you will get to talk to Glenn, and Glenn is our engineer at PhD, because we have our own studio. And I don't know if you guys know this, we actually built a studio, because during COVID, we couldn't go to PhD anymore, because they wouldn't let us in the building, because they were afraid we might, get Dom Giordano or Rich Zioli sick. So we came here.
God forbid.
Yeah, and we got ourselves our own studio. We built a $50,000 studio down here, and we connect to PhD. So if you want to call in, talk to Glenn, actually call in right now, 855-939-1137. Isn't it funny that I said we get more calls on a Saturday when we're not live, and today we're not? But I actually think I know why. Have you seen how beautiful it is outside?
Well, I spent the whole morning outside.
That's right. Yeah,
It
absolutely.
is a perfect day.
It is the most beautiful day.
Very much like September 11th, 20 years ago.
Oh man, yeah.
It's a very clear day.
Yeah.
There's no wind. There's no
Yeah.
clouds in the sky. Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm kind of hoping it's not as interesting, to be honest with you. But yeah, 9/11.
Why, you're expecting a terrorist attack today?
I hope not. Nobody ever is, though. Are they ever?
This conversation is just going to get me on a political thing. So.
Yeah, and it's not only going to get me on political, it's also going to make me sad, too, because that was a very sad day for me. I had, what do they call it, 9/11, what do they call that, the crisis, like post-traumatic stress disorder. I was watching that. I watched that thing for weeks. I just kept watching TV and watching TV and watching TV, and it really it affected me for many years. Because I used to go there. That was my territory when I owned my computer consulting company. Mm-hmm. I used to I used to come out of the World Trade Center, the PATH train, and from there I would go everywhere I was going. And it was tough.
You mean there was a train in the World Trade Center?
So the train station, the train station went to the World Trade Center. That was the PATH station, and you walk through the mall, the World Trade Center to get out. Mm-hmm. And then you went out into onto the ground. So it was rough. It was rough for me for a long time. And I used to have I knew people who died in there, and knew people who were there when it happened.
I was on the roof of the World Trade Center in April of the same year that they attacked it.
Yeah.
I was on the roof. Got a picture of all of us on the roof when Stone was a little kid. We were up on the roof, and I just remember driving to New York City, parking the car, paying to go into the World Trade Center, and I remember looking at my wife and say, "We just got here, and I've already spent $200 between tolls and everything, and." Right. And parking and the tickets to get into the World Trade Center. I'm like, I'm already out $200. We just got here.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It was
expensive town.
It's always expensive to get in there. Yeah, sure. So anyway, so by the way, our number 855-939-1137, 855-939-1137. I'm not sure if we're having trouble. Somebody's saying they're trying to call, but I don't know. So anyway, either way, we will find out what the story is with that. It should be good, 855-939-1137. You know what? If somebody wants to go, just call in and just double check so we can make sure our phone works, because somebody's saying they're trying to call in. All right. Where else are we going with this, Phil?
Well, we could talk a little bit about enhancing your location. Like, have you ever done any really clever enhancements to properties that you own?
So when you say enhancements of properties, one of the things that I do, and it's funny because I have a couple of property managers for some of my properties. I manage some myself, and I have other property managers, and every single property manager says the same thing to me. I over my properties. So when you say enhancements, I mean, I'm buying, top-of-the-line cabinets. I put granite countertops down, nice faucets, everything in nice floors. I have a two-tone, not two-tone paint, but paint, and then I have the trim done in a nice color. And the reason I do it is I personally believe that if I'm going to take pride in my property, then somebody's going to take pride. If I take pride in the property, somebody living there will take pride in the property too, and I kind of believe in that. So every single one of my property, in my property manager's opinion, is over repaired. And then when the tenants move out, I go back in and I make it look just the way it was the day it was. Two things about that make me very happy. One is the day I put it up for rent, it's rented. Plus, I get the most amount of rent. I mean, I've gotten rent $200-$300 more than the whole area because of how I renovate the property, and I get people fighting over it. That's number one. Number two, I believe it's actually easier when the tenant moves out to fix it.
Well, it probably is. Yeah. I mean, I've always done that my whole career. Like, even the very first building that I bought, I think the rents were like, this was in 1989, the rents were like $375 a month. And I said, and I just went to both tenants and I said, listen, I'm going to have to raise the rent to like $450.
Yeah.
And one of them said, well, I'm leaving. And I said,
please do, right? Yeah.
Go ahead. It's fine with me. And she left and I just re-rent property at the numbers I made up. And I've been doing that my whole life. So, like, you can look up and see what the neighborhood rents for, but I give very little credence to that. Like, you just get the number you get. Tenants don't do any research. They see an apartment, they like it, they come by. If they can afford it, they just do it.
Right, exactly.
Right? They don't think it through at all. They don't do a bunch of research.
No, they can either afford it or they can't afford it. They like it or they don't like it. That's as simple as that.
Simple. They make quick decisions, and I'm fine with that.
It's funny when I have some people, they say, well, you're asking whatever. You're asking $1,800. Every other place is going for $15. I go, well, you probably should rent another place then. That's my answer. Anyway, we got Harry on the line. Harry, what is going on, man? How can we help you?
Well, I wanted to know how much it is to become a student.
How much is it to become a student? Here's the very first hurdle you must go over. The very first hurdle is you have to show up on Thursday night. InvestorSchooling.com. We vet our students, and if you can't show up, you can't be a student. So just go to InvestorSchooling.com. You can either take a class in person or Zoom. If you show up in person, it's probably, especially if you're local, because I see it's probably a little more enjoyable. And plus, you'll get to see us, and if you'd like, you could even see our radio studio downstairs. But that would be the first thing. But what else? What other questions do you have?
The other question, I was talking with a friend. He said you can borrow money if you have like $100,000. You can borrow like $200,000-$300,000 to make. Is that true?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
He's saying if you have $100,000, you can borrow $200,000 or $300,000.
If you have $100,000 in the bank?
From the bank.
Well, so you may be able to borrow more. It depends on what your assets are. I mean, if you have a house that has some equity in it, you could borrow the equity out of your house, which we highly recommend you do, especially if you're going to buy a rental property. Is that the question you're asking, or do you have $100,000 to your name and you want to borrow $300,000?
$100,000 to your name to borrow $300,000
to buy a house. Is that correct?
Whatever purpose.
I think I know what he's asking. He's asking. It sounds like what he's asking is, do you have to put 25% down to buy a $400,000 house? The answer is yes, until you come to Investor Schooling, and we'll tell you until we teach you how to do that without taking the $100,000 down. You ready, Phil? I got a question for you, and we're gonna answer Harry's question with this. You ready? If you had $1 million in the bank, how many houses can you buy?
It's impossible to calculate that number.
Can you buy 100?
Theoretically, you could.
Can you buy 1,000?
Anything's possible.
Yeah. And how much money with the $1 million would you still have in the bank?
Not sure, but
pretty close to all of it, right? So
your appetite could be very large.
Yeah, so once you learn how to buy houses with no money out of your own pocket, which is what we teach, you'll be absolutely blown away, Harry. So hopefully we'll have you come in next week. But we're gonna go to Mike in the Poconos. What's going on, Mike?
Hey, how you guys doing?
All right.
I love your show. I listen to you every week.
Oh, thanks, man. We appreciate that.
Yay. Here's a question for you. I've been involved in modular home building. I'm an investor, and I've been doing modular homes for like 35 years.
Wow, good for you, man. That's awesome.
And yeah, I've built them both domestically and internationally. And what I'm finding now is when I'm going to look for mortgages, has the house been built from the foundation up?
It's an interesting question.
And it seems to me like there's some prejudice against modular housing. Now, I know there's no building code altogether. I understand that. Mm-hmm. But modular homes are built to national building home specs. So, do you have any thoughts on that? And then I have one more question for you.
So interesting. I never heard of that before. I mean, I bought modular homes. Secondhand. In other words, somebody already built it, and I bought it, and I had no problem with it whatsoever. Did they actually say no because of it, or did they just ask the question?
No, it seems like a very prejudiced question.
Why? Yeah, okay.
Like they ask, has the foundation?
Well,
Has the foundation been house been built from the foundation up?
what they were probably trying to find out was there's a big difference between a modular home that has wheels on the bottom of it and a modular home that does not have wheels. There's a big difference. So, obviously, if it has wheels on it, it's something you have to get registered with the motor vehicles department. And if it doesn't have wheels on it, then it can, be more of maybe that's what they were trying to find out from you.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about the question because it sounds like you're doing the modular homes where the house is just built off site, and then they assemble the 4 or 5 pieces together on site. Is that what you're doing?
Correct.
Yeah, so
correct. But in the past, they made a differentiation between a mobile home and a modular home. They never assumed that modular homes were the same as mobile.
Okay, but my question to you was: are they actually giving you trouble getting the loan, or just asking the question?
Yeah. No, I never got that far.
So, Mike, if I wanted to
once
buy,
I said yes. Once I said no, that the house has been built, off site. I don't get any further than that.
Go to a different mortgage company.
So, Mike, what do? You build modular homes?
I've built modular homes for the last 35 years. In small developments. I sold a large contract to the government of Israel when they were having a housing shortage for the Russian immigrants.
So if I wanted to buy half a dozen houses from you and have you ship them to Florida, what would that cost me?
I would look at the manufacturers down that are down in Florida. I wouldn't have them shipped down here. What we actually did is we were not a manufacturer; we were a marketing company.
Okay, so the
modular manufacturers are just not marketers. Neither were the builders. So we filled a gap in between, the builders and the manufacturers.
All right. Well, give me a range of what.
But I could do that for you easy. Yeah.
Give me a range of what these houses would be purchased for today.
Well, anywhere from, depending upon what you're looking for, 50,000 up to $200,000-300,000.
That's awesome. Very cool. All right, man. You said you had another quick question. Your audio is terrible.
Yeah, another quick question.
But we're enjoying the banter.
In Northeast.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a house in Northeast Philadelphia that I just rehabbed. I put about $80,000 into it. It would sell probably for $260,000. Everything's brand new. It's not modular. I bought the house for $85,000 and rehabbed it. It's probably worth about $250,000, $260,000. Want your idea of, if I should sell it? Is now the time, the marketplace? What you might do with something like that with $100,000 equity?
There's a whole lot of questions I would have to ask you first. But just to answer your first question, yes, if you're thinking about selling, you don't want it anymore. Now's a really good time to sell it because prices are really high. If you wanted to keep it and you wanted to access that equity, the better choice is a home equity loan. Just go to get a HELOC, and there are certain banks that'll do HELOCs on investment properties. Go there and get the HELOC and pull the equity out, and then you can use it, and that's actually tax-free money that you can use to buy another home. And then you get to keep that one, and that one grows, plus the rent pays on that one, and then the other one grows, and rent pays on that one. So I always like to keep my soldiers.
What's the LTV on something like that?
What was the question?
LTV.
Oh, the LTV.
What's the LTV.
Typically it's 80%. So you'd have to have, so whatever you owe on the property plus this loan would have to be 80% of what the property's worth. So if you have $100,000 equity, you might think maybe you'll get $50,000 in that home.
Okay.
If you need to sell it, sell it.
All right. Why don't we Why don't we talk a little bit about the stock option Sultan? Is he here?
Yeah, Mike. So why don't you come in and we'll talk to you. Go to investorschooling.com and hopefully we'll talk to you again another time. All right, man. Let's get into some stock options and talk about that. Where is the stock option Sultan music? Oh my goodness.
Stock option Sultan. Stock option Sultan.
All right, let's talk about some stocks. So first of all, one of the things that happened on Friday, which I believe presented an awesome buying opportunity, was Apple. So Apple dropped, if you saw it, Apple dropped on Friday, it dropped 5 points, actually over 5 points. And the reason was because, if you're following this story, Apple has, obviously they have the App Store, and if you have an app on the App Store, and you want to sell something inside the app, so let's say you have the App Store and Apple gets $3 of the $10, but now your app is out there and they have something inside the app that they want to sell. Apple said you have to sell it to the App Store so they can make their 30% on that too. Well, there was a couple of people who fought it. Some of the game companies fought it, and they actually won. They went to court and they actually won. So because of this, of course, it'll lower Apple's revenue. But so what? It's like it's like a mosquito on a rhinoceros's butt, that piece of revenue that they're going to lose. So it's no big deal. So that, to me, presents a buying opportunity. In fact, Apple is below 150 right now. This is a price, and I also think another price that's a really good price would be 145. So I would start looking at Apple. I think Apple's earnings are coming up real soon. They got another iPhone coming out. Everything about Apple, to me, is a buy. Whether you're a stock option investor or whether you're just investing in the stock. I also think if you want to be safe and you want to buy the stock and sell the covered calls, it's a great play. It really is, all around. American Airlines on Friday. So first of all, the market tanked on Friday, and I'm not quite sure why the market tanked. It actually seems like maybe it was just a bunch of fears, like the typical September fears. American Airlines below 19 right now. To me, another play. Matter of fact, I actually bought at 358. On Friday, I bought more American Airlines because I thought the price was so low I had to jump all over it. Below 19, it was a perfect play. So again, if it stays down there, I would buy it. If it goes down any lower, buy it. And of course, my other favorite would be CCL, which is the other one, which is doing the same exact thing. CCL is a great play at anything below 23, and I would ride these out. But if you're going to be doing stock options on these, my suggestion is go out to minimum February, because right now this way you'll go over 2 earnings. And I think it's important that you do that because right now, you still got the supreme leader who's got the mask mandates going on. So the supreme leader is telling people that they have to wear masks at least until the middle of January. Hopefully, eventually, the supreme leader will either be voted out or kicked out, or will maybe let people to live their life in America once again. But we'll see.
Well, I believe that the mandates are going to be found to be beaten back by this Supreme Court.
Well, this new mandate, the one with the employees of this was insane. Employees of over 100 people they're being mandated to mandate that they have to have the vaccine. Holy cow! What country is this again? I'm struggling with calling it the United States of America at this point. Do we actually have a constitution anymore? I can't believe we went there, but we needed to go there. This is insane. Absolutely insane. So hopefully, eventually, the mandates will either be voted away, sued away, or maybe one day somebody will come to their senses. I don't know. So I've been heavily into Alibaba, and unfortunately, the China story just won't go away. It's one of those stories I thought it would go away, where the China is cracking down on Chinese companies and saying, hey, you can't make enough money because they're communist. That's coming here too. That's coming here. As a matter of fact, in New York, Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, and the other one, Grubhub, has been told that they're not allowed to make more than a certain percentage of money anymore over the check. So if your check's $10, they used to be able to add $3. They can't do it anymore. Now, they actually have to charge a certain amount of money less. So it's amazing to me that they're telling a company, you can't charge these prices. If people don't want to pay them, they just don't take the service. I mean, it's like us, the average student here pays about $450,000. No, I'm only kidding, Bill. But I thought you'd find that funny, especially because that guy asked. No, but if you don't want to pay our service, don't pay our service. Go somewhere else. You know, you can get a lot of bad information if you want from other people. And if you don't want the service, you don't want their service. Right? All right. So you got to be careful with that. Alibaba's doing the same thing. That's why I think the play is just stay away from it. If you're in it, you know, white knuckle it, try to get somewhere near your out price. I know we've been talking about it in the class, but I got to tell you, stay away from it. It's not a great play. So right now also crypto is kind of struggling right now. At least Ethereum is at 3,300. That's pretty good. You know, I'm still waiting for it to break 4,000. It hit that 4,000 and bounced right off and bounced right back down. So people were looking for the 4,000 number to get out. I think it'll break through the next time. But hey, you know, there's nothing you can do. Hopefully it'll break through the next time. All right, and then of course, Dogecoin, my other favorite crypto, is sitting there at 24, 25. It actually hit 31 cents again, and I didn't sell it because I thought it would go a little bit further. But understand that I'm not a crypto player. I just happen to have, you know, I don't know, a couple of 10 grand in there and enjoying it for right now. All right. So we've got what? We got about a minute and 30 seconds. What do you think, man?
Oh, that's a lot of pressure. Thanks to our producer, Glenn and Pedro, for helping us out today. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor on this show, you can email us at info@investorschooling.com, info@investorschooling.com. Don't forget to visit investorschooling.com and put your name and email address in there so you can attend a free class this Thursday night at 7 o'clock. We're going to be talking about real estate investing. We're going to be talking about stock option trading. We're going to be talking about money. If you care about money, credit cards, HELOCs, you name it, all these things we cover in our class here at Investor Schooling. I've got plenty of time.
You don't.
Yes, I do.
Our clock's wrong.
Really?
15.
Got a wrong clock.
Goodbye, everybody.
Until now?